Hello everybody, welcome back. This is the Level Up English podcast, the best place to come to practice the English language, hear the British accent, and have fun with me, your host, Michael Lavers. Today I want to talk all about animals, and this is actually something I did in a previous episode on the podcast. Let me find the episode number. It was 215. So that was probably about a year ago. That was more than a year ago. Wow, how time flies. So I spoke all about animal idioms, which I think are very useful. I think there are so many idioms in English that involve animals. And yeah, of course, it's just very useful to learn these idioms if you want to sound more natural in your speaking. And just to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes image or idea of what goes on with these episodes, I researched for this one by looking online for some common idioms. Of course, I have them in my head, but I want to go online to see if there are any that I missed. And when doing so, I found a big list of idioms that I thought could be useful. However, the one thing I always try to do, I always make sure to do, is only share idioms that I think are useful. There were some idioms on the list that I had frankly never heard of before, like eat like a bird. It makes sense to me if you eat like a bird, but I've never heard anyone use that before. I've never heard that idiom. Maybe some people use it, but in my experience, it's not used. So therefore, I'm not going to share it apart from that example. So I've only selected animal idioms that I think are used in daily conversation, and if you do use them yourself, you will not sound unnatural. And as always, if you want to see the full vocabulary list with live transcript, subtitles, and a quiz and other bonus materials to help you learn, you can check out more at levelupenglish.school and click on the members button at the top of the page. As a member, you will get many more benefits, such as group classes, vocabulary courses, IELTS exam courses, many other courses, and a community of learners where you can discuss questions and ask for advice on certain topics. And finally, you'll be supporting the show as well. So people like you who decide to support the show help me continue so that people that cannot afford to support can continue to do so for free. So those of you who do support and help me continue with this podcast, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. But hopefully you're getting some nice benefits in return as well. So yeah, once again, go to the website or you can click on the link in your podcast description to find out more. But thank you for bearing with me while I spoke about that little introduction there. And what did I just say? I said, bear with me. So this is our first idiom today. My goal always is to try and use these idioms in a natural context, rather than just listing them out. However, recently I've been trying to do that a little bit more off the cuff, which means without preparation. So we'll see how it goes. It really depends how awake I feel and how quickly my mind is able to come up with new ideas and examples. But anyway, let's talk about this first one, to bear with me. So we have that word bear, B-E-A-R. Be careful with this pronunciation because I hear a lot of people confusing the animal, bear, with the drink, the alcoholic drink, beer. So listen carefully to that difference. We have bear, beer. I think the drink is a bit more distinct, right? Because it's two sounds. It's beer, beer, beer. Whereas the animal is bear. It's kind of one longer sound rather than those two together. So we're talking about the animal bear. Bear with me. It's not really related to a bear, to be honest, but the word is included in the idiom. What this really means is just, please be patient with me. Wait 1 second. It's quite a nice polite way to say, hold on a second, bear with me, right? Be patient. So that's a really nice one to use. So this is something that I use quite a lot, probably not in English though, but when I'm trying to talk in another language, I would like to say, bear with me. Because that's kind of how my Chinese sounds these days. It's lots of umming and ahhing, like I think there's so much pausing, and it's quite clumsy and awkward. So if you are like me when you speak English, then that will be very useful for you. So okay, bear with me while I think about this 1 second. Right, so that is something that I guess I know how to say it in Chinese, but it's always a useful thing to know, right? It's also something that I say to a lot of my friends who try to contact me by texting me or emailing me, especially recently because I have so much coming up in the summer. I have a really busy summer ahead. And because of that, I'm trying to prepare many, many things in advance because I want to keep making these podcasts every week. I also want to keep making lessons for the members on the website. But it's not always easy when I have things going on particular weeks, right? So I need to work in advance to make sure that I don't fall behind on my work and, not do as much as I want to. So sometimes people will message me like, Michael, can I have your help with something? Or can I ask you a question? And I always say, of course, but please bear with me. I'm very busy at the moment and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. I say that all the time and hopefully people don't get annoyed with me, but I really hope they understand. So maybe you could think about a time in your life when you can use that expression to bear with me. Right, and now we're moving away from bears and towards my favorite animal in a slightly strange idiom. And this is, well, do you know my favorite animal? If you're a long-time listener, maybe you do. How well do you know Michael? I think there's a few things I could talk about with this one. One slightly easier one is that it was my mum's birthday not too long ago. However, I did not get a present for her. And this is because, well, I kind of did. So I got a present, but I decided rather than posting it all the way across the world and spending all that money and risking it getting lost in the postal service, I thought I would just deliver it by hand. So I'm coming back to England very soon for a short trip, and I thought I would just deliver it in person. Even if it is a bit late, I think it should be okay, right? So I was hoping to keep it a secret as to what the present was, but the cat's out of the bag. I accidentally said what the present was. So hopefully it's not a problem, but sadly it is no longer a surprise. Did you hear the expression I used? It was the cat's out of the bag. The cat is out of the bag, right? So this just means a secret has been revealed. I don't know why there's a cat in the bag. It's a very strange idiom, and frankly, I don't really want to know why. I don't think we should put cats in bags, and I don't want to know why that is in the idiom. But in this kind of metaphor, I suppose, the cat is the secret, and the bag can be the place where you keep secrets, maybe inside, right? So if you accidentally, or maybe on purpose, reveal a secret, the cat is out of the bag, right? So, oh no, the cat is out of the bag. Now you know what present you're getting. And I suppose I can tell you what the present is if you're interested. It's nothing too special, but basically it's a cat tracker. So it's kind of appropriate that we're talking about cats now. So my mum often gets worried about her cat because he is an outdoor cat and sometimes he will stay away from home for quite a long time. We're kind of wondering whether he's cheating on us with another home. Maybe he's staying at a neighbour's house and not telling us where he's going. So in order just to keep an eye on him, we don't want to restrict his freedom and his happy life in the countryside, but we also want to make sure he's safe. So hopefully this cat tracker will allow us to watch where he's going on our phones. Very excited for that. I have another secret that I haven't told anyone yet, and this is about where I'm going in the summer. I have a few trips planned that are going to be really, really big, and hopefully I'm going to make a video about each one. I'd love to somehow involve the podcast in these trips. I think it would be really exciting. Two of them are really huge. And honestly, I don't really want to talk about them yet. For example, what if I don't actually do it? That something goes wrong and I can't do the trip. And then I would feel a bit awkward if I had already spoken about it. So maybe I'll tell you afterwards, but I suppose I can let you know one of the trips, which is a very short trip to, I think in English we would say Laos, but I think the more correct way is Lao. Why is it always so hard for me to say? Lao. It just sounds like an awkward sound, doesn't it? But it's the country that is spelled in English Laos, right? Maybe I should go there and ask someone how to pronounce it. But I'm going to visit there fairly soon because it is so close to Thailand and very easy to get to, relatively. So I'm very excited for that. But now the cat is out of the bag. I've told you my big secret holiday. It's not really a secret. But yeah, the cat's out of the bag. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it though. Hopefully it should be a good trip. It's only a few days, but sometimes it's nice to have a short and sweet trip. But yeah, let me know if you have any trips coming up soon. And maybe you could also let me know if you've been to Laos and what you thought of it, if you liked it there. Maybe you have some advice for me as well. I actually went on another trip over the weekend. It was just a 2-day trip, a weekend getaway, we can say. A getaway is a noun, and it just means a short trip away from home. So we went on a short weekend getaway to a national park not too far from Bangkok. And I had a really nice time. It was really nice seeing a more natural area of Thailand as opposed to the big city where it can get a little bit hectic and busy and polluted. So that was really nice. And I went with a group of people that I met before, and I knew them from Bangkok. So we'd been friends for a few months already. And one guy mistakenly thought that I was afraid of snakes. Now, this isn't true. I'm not actually afraid of snakes, but I mentioned something about, what if there are some snakes here? I don't want to get bitten. Of course, I'm afraid of getting bitten. I think we all are, right? No one wants to get bitten by snakes. But he assumed that I was really afraid of them. So he kept telling me, I saw a snake over there. I saw a cobra in the grass. Oh, is that a snake down there? And for a few times I believed him. I was like, oh, really? And I was trying to, stand back and not get bitten by the snakes. And eventually he told me that he was just lying. He was trying to trick me and scare me, which didn't work. You can't scare me that easily. Okay, maybe you can. But he was just lying. But then I said to him, you should be careful because if you keep crying wolf, I will not believe you when there really is a snake. Right? This is really what I said to him, and it's really appropriate now because we can talk about this expression. Actually not to do with snakes. It uses the word wolf, right? Wolf, the wild dog kind of animal. So if you cry wolf, this means you raise a false alarm. So this comes from a story, I believe. I don't know if it's like a children's story, or I'm not sure where exactly it comes from, but it's a commonly known story. You may know about this story already, where there's a boy who every day was crying, which means shouting, wolf, wolf, which is like, everyone, danger, there's a wolf coming. And everyone would panic and they would get scared. And when they would come to see the wolf, there was no wolf. So it was revealed that the boy was lying. He was just kind of pranking the village and tricking everyone just for fun, right? So eventually people just stopped believing him because he always, said there was a wolf and there never was. So of course, why would they believe him anymore? However, one day there was actually a wolf. A wolf came and the boy again cried, wolf, wolf. But no one heard, well, people did hear the boy, but no one believed him because why would they? They assumed he was lying. And let's just say it was not a happy ending for the boy. I think the wolf eventually got the boy because it was kind of a lesson, right? A lesson that you shouldn't make up stories because when people do need to trust you, they will not. So don't play games with people's trust because Trust can easily be lost, but not so easily be won back. So that's what this means, to cry wolf. It means to say something is happening when it's really not, and risk losing the trust of people. It does sound like quite a specific situation, but I think you'd be surprised how often it really comes up. Here's a really common example that I used to do quite a lot when I was younger. Hopefully my parents aren't listening to this. But I used to pretend I was sick quite a lot so I could skip going to school. Like many children, I hated school and I wanted to stay at home, watch TV, play video games, that kind of stuff, right? So sometimes I would just fake being ill. As we say in British slang, I would pull a sickie. I would pull a sickie. So I would pull a sickie and I would pretend to be sick. However, this probably didn't always work in my favor because I think parents are smarter than we think they are. And, maybe I could trick my parents sometimes that I was really sick when I wasn't. However, many times they probably knew that I wasn't really honest. They probably knew that I wasn't actually that sick, but maybe they didn't want to argue, or I don't know the reason. But then there was sometimes when I really was sick and I really felt horrible, and my parents just didn't really believe me. And I never really had a problem. Like, they would still let me stay off school if I was really sick, right? They're not going to force me to go if I'm crying and I'm, sneezing and sniffing. It's a bit mean. But it did make me feel guilty. Like when I guess even when I was older and I would feel sick and I would stay at home from work, I would always feel guilty. And I think it's because I was the boy who cried wolf about being sick. And that guilt always stays with me. Like, even if I am really sick, I still feel like I'm kind of faking it. I don't know. Do you get that feeling too? I'm not sure. Maybe you can let me know if you ever cried wolf about being sick or some other reason, and how it went for you. It could be interesting. I know in the UK these days, it's very serious to avoid going to school. If parents take their kids off school, I believe they can even be fined. They have to pay some money these days, which I don't know much about, but that's what I've heard. And I know some schools, it's much easier to take your kids out of school. So it's kind of interesting how different countries treat it differently. One other thing that I have been doing recently in Thailand, which I'm really proud of, is attending some language practice events, I suppose we could say. So I'll give you some background on this. I think it's really interesting, and I would also highly recommend that you seek out, which means find, something similar in your area. Hopefully you can, whether in person or in real life. So I first attended a Japanese speaking meetup, and it was very fun. I was feeling quite tired, which I think affected me a bit, and I also hadn't really practiced much Japanese speaking for some time before that event. So I wasn't totally proud of my performance, but basically I turned up to a cafe and there was maybe 12 or so other people there, some Japanese, others maybe Thai or English or French, learning Japanese. And everyone spoke really, really good Japanese. I could follow most of the things, but sometimes I kind of felt like a fish out of water. I kind of felt like I really didn't belong there. And that was a really awkward feeling. So I think I just need more practice. I need to keep going back perhaps, but it is a really good opportunity to be able to meet people and practice your language skills, especially, many of you can relate to this, I'm sure. Where I'm from, I just don't think there are any Japanese people. Maybe where you live, there are no English people to practice with. So that makes practice so much more difficult when you don't live in a big international city. But here, thankfully, there are so many Japanese people now. And that means there are many opportunities for me to practice my language skills away from my computer, away from my bedroom, and have fun as well, which is really nice. So yeah, I went to this meetup. We spoke about different things, but I think I need more practice. I think that was my key takeaway, my big lesson. So yeah, I felt like a fish out of water. This is our next expression. Did you get the meaning? based on the context that I used before. If you did have a guess, well done. But this really just means someone who is feeling out of place where they are in their surroundings. So obviously, if there's a fish out of water, it's very clumsy. It doesn't know what to do. It's flapping around. It's not in its natural and comfortable environment. And if a person is a fish out of water, it's just the same. They're not comfortable because they're not used to that environment. So I felt like a fish out of water. I felt a little bit uncomfortable. I wasn't sure what to do, a little bit awkward. You might feel similar when you attend a group to play a sport, for example. If you're playing sports with someone, but they're all much better than you might feel like a fish out of water. Or a really common example is if you start a new job. That's so awkward. Those first 2 weeks of a new job, it's one of my worst feelings I've ever had, where everyone knows what they're doing, and for some reason, it's just not very cool to tell the new people what to do. So they kind of just expect you to know what to do, and you really feel like a fish out of water because you're the only one who doesn't really know what to do. It's such a horrible feeling. So I haven't had that for quite some time, but I really do feel for anyone who is still going through that if you're starting a new job. I guess my only advice for you would be keep going. If you stay there long enough, you will no longer be the new person, and people will look up to you, and you'll be that person who can help the new people, right? So remember what it feels like to be new. So yeah, fish out of water, really good expression. However, one thing that Japanese meetup inspired me to do was start my own meetup. So there are a few Chinese groups here, but none of them really suited me. They were all like going out at nighttime, going to bars, and it's just not my cup of tea. It's not the kind of thing I like to do. I much prefer sitting in a cafe on a weekday where it's not so busy, it's more comfortable, more relaxing. So I thought, why not start my own group, which I did. I started a Chinese group recently, and we've had a couple events so far, and honestly, I did not really feel like a fish out of water. I felt much more comfortable. I don't know if that's because I'm focused more on my Chinese recently, but it might also be because I was the host. Being the host of an event, you feel like you have more responsibility. You feel like you're supposed to be there. I didn't feel like a fish out of water. So surprisingly, for about 2 hours, I was able to talk in Chinese. Right towards the end, my brain did kind of start to turn off and lose energy. But before that, it went quite well. And there's another one I'm doing tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. Wish me luck. But if you want to do anything similar, I highly recommend searching around online, searching for maybe English or language exchange groups in your area. Or here's a crazy idea. Maybe you could start one, right? Start a group, and you could do it however you want. It could be English and your native language exchange. You could say English and Arabic, for example, exchange. Or you could just say English chat. That's what I did. And just say, we're going to meet up and just talk in English, make friends, practice what we learnt. And it could be a cafe, in a park, restaurant, whatever you like. And it's a really good idea, I think, to try something like that. If no one turns up, that's fine. You can enjoy a coffee or whatever on your own. No big deal. If just 1 or 2 people come, that's also fine. You can make a friend, have a language exchange, and hopefully over time, it will grow into a larger group. If you do that, please let me know. I would honestly love to hear if anyone tries doing that, or maybe you have done something similar before. It's such a nice idea, and I think it's just so normal. Like, we wait for other people to do things. I do that a lot. But then I thought, wait, why not do it myself? Why not just take the initiative, be proactive, and take action on my own? So yeah, maybe you could do the same. Right? It could be an idea. The only issue, though, with this group that I'm hosting is it is on a weekday in the middle of the day. So that sadly means that a lot of people who are working a 9 to 5 job cannot attend, which I know is kind of annoying, but for me, I just really prefer doing things on a weekday so I can leave the weekends for relaxing or exploring. I don't want to have any, meetings on the weekend personally. And yeah, obviously I'm quite lucky because I can be a bit flexible with the work that I do. And I meet a lot of other people in these groups that are in a similar position. And I suppose you could say a lot of them anyway, have been inspired or motivated to leave the rat race. So maybe you could see how I was trying to link these topics together. But this is the next expression, rat race. I think we'll do 2 more, including this one today. So the rat race, well, let's just make an image first of all. Imagine you've got loads of rats, these animals, in kind of a maze. They're in a maze, they're trying to find the exit, they're running around, they're really busy, they're going kind of crazy everywhere, and all of the rats are just trying to get to the end of the race. What is the race, you might ask? Well, the race is, I suppose, life. Get to the end of life, maybe? And the rats here represent people, like many of these idioms do. So basically, the rat race is an expression used to talk about the stressful, competitive, and tiring way that many of us do life. It's stressful because we are working so much. It's competitive because we are trying to compete with our other co-workers. And yes, tiring as well. So I'm sure some of us can relate to this when you're in a job, you're just trying to do the hardest you can to get money, maybe get promoted in your work, and you're trying to do a better job than some other people in your workplace as well. For some people, that's really rewarding and it's a really exciting and fulfilling life. But for other people, it's incredibly stressful, and I think there are maybe more people in the latter category, in this category, where they are working hard at their job, but maybe they're dreaming of sitting on the beach, traveling the world, not having to work so hard for just some money to put food on the table. It can be a tough way to live, right? So there are many people who try to leave the rat race, which is where you might quit your job and travel the world or do something a bit unusual. For example, Paul, on a recent episode we did, a conversation episode, he did something a little bit similar where he quit his job and he bought a camper van and he traveled the world while living in the camper van, which is not a life that everyone would like, but I do admire him for taking that jump, having the courage to do that, to leave the rat race and live a life that he wanted to with more freedom and perhaps less comfort, but sometimes we have to sacrifice comfort for something more exciting in life, right? So I think it really depends on what kind of person you are. But yeah, for me, I did not enjoy the rat race. I never really had an office job, but I did have a few jobs where I felt there was a lot of workplace politics, which means between co-workers, there was a lot of competitiveness, people trying to compete, trying to, be the best, get promoted, and gossip about other people not doing their job correctly. And I really hate that. I think we all hate that, don't we? It's really annoying. It's not a nice environment to be in. So I've told the story many times before. I'll just say very quickly, when I was in my early 20s, I decided to quit that rat race and just go traveling, using my savings in my bank. And it didn't answer all my questions, but it was a nice time of my life where I could just focus on traveling and not worry too much about money, at least for a couple months until my savings ran out. But anyway, that's rat race. I do think, however, it's important not to horse around too much. So if you do quit your job and you want to go travel, don't just go horsing around and go gambling and spend all your money on silly things, on petty small things. I think it's important to be wise with your spending, especially if you don't have regular income, right? So here was my next connection to the final expression today, horse around. We have that word horse, the animal horse. So horsing around, this is a phrasal verb now, a phrasal verb expression. And I guess it kind of just means you're kind of being silly, you're messing around, you're not taking something seriously, you're horsing around. So a teacher might say to you, hey, no more horsing around. Or your parents might say the same thing. So yeah, if you are quitting your job to travel, or maybe even more importantly, you are trying to start your own business, like many of you probably are, it's important not to horse around too much. Now, you might like to enjoy your new freedom and go out in the middle of the day to join an English speaking class, but don't horse around too much because it will drain your money very quickly. I know many people in the UK would do this, right? If they didn't have to work, they would go out to the pub, they'd go drinking, they'd go see their friends, they'd go traveling, and I think it would drain their bank account very quickly. So all of that horsing around is not good for your future, your future life, your future plans. Another example where I could link back to my groups here in Thailand is another group that I've been going to, which is a badminton group. I've really gotten into badminton recently, and it's just so fun, and I feel like it's really good exercise as well. However, I think my main reason for going is mostly just for the social aspect. I much prefer just meeting people and chatting to people rather than playing sports. I'm not a very competitive person. So I don't know what other people think of me, but I wonder if they think that I horse around too much, because I'm just there to have fun. My main goal is to have fun with other people, with friends. So sometimes I might be a bit silly. Sometimes I might not take the game as seriously as others would. Maybe someone who's more competitive than me. And they might think I'm horsing around. Hopefully not, but they might accuse me of horsing around. So if I am being too silly and trying to, hit the shuttle with the racket in a kind of an awkward way, maybe under my legs or something like that, they might say, hey, Michael, stop horsing around. We have to win this game. Maybe I would say, okay, let's take it seriously. Or maybe I would just say, hey, don't take it so seriously. Come on, it's just a game. What's the big deal? I don't know. But there's one more example of horsing around. Let's finish there. I got a bit carried away because I've been really enjoying talking about this topic. But let's just do a quick review on these. We had bear with me, cats out of the bag, to cry wolf, fish out of water, rat race, and horse around. Lots of idioms with lots of different animals. Hopefully that's interesting for you, but thank you very much for listening up until this point. I want to do a few things though before we say goodbye today. Firstly, I want to say a quick thank you to some reviews. And I do have one review in Japanese as well, which I'm going to do my best to read. So stick around if you want to hear me try that. But first of all, let's go to Sarin12321 and have a look at their review in English. So this one is, I used to listen to your podcast while practicing for the IELTS exam because I was not very familiar with the British accent. However, nowadays I have started listening to your podcast again because now I live in London. I applaud your expertise in helping others learn. I highly recommend this podcast to those who would like to learn the British accent. Michael speaks very clearly and usually covers topics that are needed for general conversations. Well, maybe like animals, right? So thank you very much, Sarin. Now in London, that's so exciting. So thank you for coming back to the podcast, and I really hope you enjoy your time in London. If you need any tips or anything, just reach out to me by email. I love talking about London. Okay, let's get to this Japanese one now. I will do my best to read it, but let's see if I know all the words. I'll also translate it into English afterwards if I can, very quickly for everyone. ゆっくりわかりやすく上品なお声で話してくださいます。リスニングの練習になるのはもちろん、英語の勉強の仕方を話してくださるので、実践的な学びにもなります。Okay, hopefully I read that okay. There was one word I wasn't quite sure about, but I think what that is saying is slow and clear speaking with a polite voice. Not only is it good for listening skills, but also you have an opportunity to practice learning about how to study English as well. So something like that. And I don't really have a name for this person apart from Okashinana Shigao. So thank you very much to you. Really appreciate your nice review. It's always nice to have it from another country as well, because that helps me get a bit higher in that country too. So thank you very much, and don't say too many mean things about my Japanese pronunciation. Well, we have one more here from Razan from Saudi Arabia, which thankfully is not in Arabic. So this one says, Hi Michael, first of all, I really want to thank you for this amazing podcast, which I've been enjoying so much since 2021. I started listening when I was preparing for IELTS, and I found myself falling for it. You really helped so many people, so please keep up this great work. Thank you, Razan. So kind of you. We've been all around the world in these reviews today, but that's very nice of all of you, so thank you again. I have a lovely quote to end on today by Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated." I love this quote. I think it's quite true. We can see a lot around the world, countries that are doing really well in many areas, like climate and economy. They tend to treat their animals much nicer than countries that are a bit behind. And hopefully in the future, once all the other countries become more wealthy and prosperous and comfortable, then the animals can take priority as well. The same can be said for people too, right? It says a lot about someone's character, how they treat animals, right? How they treat someone who cannot share their own opinion on their treatment, right? So if you want some dating advice before we go, if you ever go on a date with someone and they're not treating animals very well, then I think that could be a bit of a red flag. So pay attention to how people treat animals, and that will say a lot about their character. Hopefully it's with respect and warmth and that kind of stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching or listening today. So glad to have you here. And if you're right at the end as well, that's also amazing. Thank you for not clicking away before the end. For now, I'll leave it here. See you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone. You have been listening to the Level Up English podcast. If you would like to leave a question to be answered on a future episode, then please go to levelupenglish.school/podcast. That's levelupenglish.school/podcast. And I'll answer your question on a future episode. Thanks for listening.